Life in the Arctic isn't for the faint-hearted. When the temperature dips well below freezing, each hunt becomes a harsh contest between man and the forces of nature. But for the Inuit, there's no room for hesitation. Survival demands it. So, how do you bring down a creature that tips the scale at over 4,000 pounds? Let's dive into that world. These enormous sea mammals, each weighing close to 2 tons, represent more than just a food source. A single walrus has the potential to sustain an entire village for many weeks. It's the day Inuit to centuries of ancestry. But make no mistake, taking down a walrus in the Arctic's brutal wilderness is anything but simple. The skills needed to succeed on a walrus hunt go far beyond brute strength. They're rooted in knowledge passed down through the generations, understanding how to interpret the movement of pack ice, the signs in animal behavior, and the ever-changing patterns of the weather. It's a wisdom carved by time and taught in stories and survival. To the communities of the far north, hunting walrus isn't just about storing meat. It's about honoring tradition, surviving with dignity, and protecting a way of life that has endured for thousands of years. In a region where even one mistake could mean disaster, the hunt must be flawless. While the Arctic acts like nature's deep freezer, it's brutally unforgiving on the tools of the trade. Your gear better be tougher than the frost that greets you at dawn. And believe me, Arctic leftovers are not your average fridge finds. One hunter joked that his grandmother's old caribou stew from last year could double as a hockey puck. That's how cold and unforgiving this place is. The gear used in walrus hunting is no less rugged. In fact, it ranks among the toughest, most thoughtfully engineered tools found anywhere in the world. When your environment is constantly trying to break you, only the most battle-tested equipment survives. Arctic tools are not only built to last, they're built with purpose, precision, and a deep respect for survival. Traditional Inuit hunting gear combines generations of know-how with practical ingenuity. One standout example? The harpoon. This isn't just a pointed stick. It features a toggle head that rotates sideways under the animal's skin after impact, locking it in place. It's the kind of simple yet brilliant innovation that would leave modern engineers in awe. These toggle heads are typically carved from walrus tusk ivory or caribou antler, both of which can withstand temperatures that would make steel snap. These materials weren't picked randomly. They earned their place through centuries of experience, proving their durability in the toughest conditions on Earth. While some hunters now use harpoons with steel tips, they still honor the clever toggle mechanism developed generations ago. The steel used is specially chosen for its ability to remain strong and flexible, even when temperatures plunge below 0 Fahrenheit. In fact, hunters often laugh that their harpoons are more dependable than their snowmobiles. And that's probably not far from the truth. Among the Inuit, there's an old saying, "A snowmobile might leave you behind, but a well-made harpoon never will." Even the rope attached to the harpoon tells a story of resilience. Traditionally, it was made from the skin of bearded seals. The process to create it was long and labor-intensive, cutting the skin into strips, drying it for weeks, then braiding it into an unbelievably strong cord. These ropes could endure thousands of pounds of tension without snapping. Turning sealskin into rope is more than just a task. It's a refined skill handed down over countless generations. Each strip has to be sliced with care. If it's cut too thick, the rope turns rigid and clumsy. Too thin, and it risks snapping when tension is high. Modern hunters often switch to nylon lines, but not just any kind will do. Standard nylon stiffens and cracks when exposed to extreme cold. The ropes used in the Arctic are specifically engineered to remain flexible even at minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit, a temperature so cold that even Celsius agrees. As one hunter jokingly put it, "That's when even your nose hairs start begging for a vacation." Despite advances in materials, some hunters still stick with the old ways, swearing by the feel of seal skin lines. "Nylon tells you something's pulling," one seasoned hunter explained. Sealskin tells you what it's planning. That level of sensitivity isn't just poetic, it's practical. Understanding how each material behaves under pressure isn't just part of the craft. In the Arctic, it can make the difference between success and survival. Keeping tools in working order is a constant challenge, and that's led to some clever preservation techniques. Many hunters, even those using steel harpoon tips, store them submerged in seal oil. This isn't just tradition, it's incredibly effective. The oil prevents rust and keeps moving parts from freezing up in the cold. Seal oil acts like a natural shield, blocking out the moisture and salt that can ruin equipment fast. With this kind of upkeep, a handcrafted harpoon can last more than a lifetime. In fact, there are harpoons still in use today that were built over a century ago, with the same tried and true toggle head design still doing the job. There's a phrase engineers like to use: if it works, don't mess with it. That mindset fits perfectly with the design of the traditional harpoon. Each one tells its own story, often bearing carved marks and notches that represent personal milestones or legendary hunts. Some harpoons even have tally marks etched into the wooden handles, decades worth of successful strikes documented in small grooves made by steady hands. Just as impressive are the float bags used during hunts. These ingenious tools help wear out the walrus and flag its location after impact. Traditionally crafted from entire seal skins that are sewn, sealed, and flipped inside out, these floats are capable of holding enough air to support hundreds of pounds of resistance in open water. While today's hunters may lean toward modern inflatable buoys, the principle behind the float hasn't changed a bit. Some now use bright orange bags instead of the classic earthy browns, which has inspired a running joke that walruses must think they're being chased by oversized oranges. These floats are far more than markers. They're an active part of the strategy. Once attached, they create drag, making the walrus burn energy as it struggles to swim with a load it can't shake. Every piece of gear plays a role, and every role is vital when the stakes are this high. Another important item is the savgut, a traditional ice testing spear used to measure thickness and stability as hunters move across frozen terrain. With its pointed metal tip, it reveals far more than just depth. To the trained ear, it speaks of ice strength and safety. One hunter laughed as he tapped the ice and muttered, "This ice reminds me of my mother-in-law, thick but not to be trusted. Lucky for him, she lives miles away." With unpredictable ice across the Arctic, being able to assess safety quickly is not just helpful, it's a survival skill. Among the most trusted tools in the Arctic toolkit is the ulu, a traditional knife with a rounded blade and a handle placed directly above it. Designed for efficient skinning and meat preparation, its curved edge allows for powerful cuts with minimal strain. Its ergonomic shape means hunters can process hundreds of pounds of material without exhaustion, making it one of the most valued tools on the ice. Modern tools have found their place in the Arctic hunter's gear lineup, but they don't replace tradition, they enhance it. Ice anchors and pulley setups are now commonly used to stabilize loads and assist with hauling a 4,000-pound walrus across slick terrain. These additions merge seamlessly with time-tested equipment, forming a hybrid hunting system that respects generations of knowledge while welcoming effective improvements. Some hunters have even swapped wooden sled runners for synthetic materials that glide more efficiently over ice. One elder put it best: "All the fancy gear in the world won't help if you're heading in the wrong direction." Then, with a grin, he added, "But hey, at least you'll get lost in style." This delicate balance between old and new isn't accidental. It's a deliberate way to keep culture alive while staying practical. Even storing tools requires thoughtful planning. Many still use traditional bags crafted from sealskin, designed to be waterproof and rugged. These bags are sectioned with hand-stitched compartments, each tailored to fit a specific tool. What's remarkable is that hunters can often locate gear by feel alone. That's not just a convenience, it's a necessity when working in total darkness with thick mittens. One young hunter once reached for his ice tester but accidentally pulled out his sandwich. The lesson stuck. The layout of each tool bag has been shaped by countless seasons on the ice. Pockets are strategically placed for weight balance and quick access, often optimized for use on sleds or snowmobiles. But it's not just about convenience. These tools are fine-tuned for an extreme environment where temperatures can swing from -40 degrees Fahrenheit to just above freezing in a single day. Every blade, rope, or hook has been adapted over time to work under crushing stress, freezing winds, and unpredictable terrain. The innovation lies not in changing what works, but in constantly improving how it works. This spirit of refinement extends to the hunters themselves. They treat each new piece of gear as something to be tested, studied, and mastered. Before trusting a new tool on an actual hunt, they'll run it through real-world simulations, cutting ice, lifting loads, or even dragging it across tundra. One broken piece of gear can mean the difference between a successful hunt and a life-threatening situation. That's why backups are always ready, cleaned, oiled, and packed. A trusted harpoon might be decades old, but it's never carried without a fresh spare close at hand. These tools aren't just functional, they're deeply personal. Each one carries meaning, whether it's a scratch from a successful hunt or a carved emblem passed down through family lines. Tools become physical heirlooms, linking generations through the marks left by time, use, and memory. A certain knife might be known for helping land a legendary walrus, while a harpoon could be named after the hunter who first used it. These are not just objects, they're stories in solid form. Markings on tools serve both practical and cultural roles. Unique symbols help identify the owner at a glance, especially when gear gets shared among hunting parties. But these symbols also record legacy, the history of each tool's use, its creator, and the skill it represents. As dusk settles across the icy landscape and gear is cleaned and stored, hunters rest knowing that tomorrow's challenges will be met with generations of experience built into every blade and cord. In the Arctic, having tools isn't enough. Mastering them is what keeps you alive. Now comes the hardest part. Actually, my old friend Ook once joked, "It's like trying to find a moving dot on a whiteboard the size of a football field, only the board shifts shape every day." Getting to the right spot takes more than luck. It takes skill, timing, and deep knowledge of the ice. Hunters read the ice like a book. Breathing holes, essential for walruses that surface every 4 to 10 minutes, offer critical clues. These openings usually form in naturally thin areas of ice and grow smoother with use. Some can be as wide as 3 feet and have glassy edges from repeated surfacing. Spotting them means you're in the right territory. In the Arctic, even the wind can become a guide. When it sweeps across the ice just right, it carries more than cold. It brings sound. Seasoned hunters can detect walruses from over a mile away by listening carefully to the deep, echoing calls that travel through the air. These guttural noises are difficult to describe, but unforgettable once heard. Some hunters say the sound is like a lion's roar filtered through a snowstorm. Others compare it to an uncle's thunderous snoring after Thanksgiving dinner. Whatever the description, one thing is certain. These sounds are essential clues in locating a herd. Walruses are incredibly vocal animals. They don't just grunt aimlessly. They're constantly talking to each other, exchanging messages in a language hunters have come to understand. Over generations, Inuit hunters have learned to interpret a wide range of calls. There's a low grunt that signals all is well, a sharp snort that means danger is near, and even an excited whistle that seems to alert others to a good feeding spot. Decoding these sounds is more than just interesting. it's a vital skill. Being able to differentiate between a feeding call and a distress signal can guide hunters to or away from a herd. Even with the addition of GPS technology, hunters still lean heavily on traditional knowledge when choosing where to search. Walrus, many other Arctic species. Knowing where these polynyas form each season gives experienced hunters a major edge. But the clues go beyond sea ice. Skilled hunters read the Arctic like a living map. They watch for seabirds that hover near herds and certain species of seals that often appear around walrus. These signs act like nature's notifications, pointing toward animal activity without ever needing a device. Even the color of the water offers hints. A murky, muddy tint usually signals that walruses have been rooting through the sea floor in search of clams, an unmistakable sign that a herd is nearby. Once a likely spot is found, the real test begins: waiting. Hunting walrus isn't about speed, it's about patience. Hunters may remain still for hours or days, positioned near breathing holes or along ice edges where walrus often surface. To shield themselves from relentless Arctic winds, hunters sometimes build small shelters from snow and ice. Inside, they stay low, conserve warmth, and stay quiet. These moments of stillness also become opportunities for teaching. Elders pass on hunting techniques, share family stories, and explain how to read the subtle cues of the environment. Some of the most powerful lessons are shared during these hushed intervals. Technology has certainly changed how some hunters approach the search. Binoculars, spotting scopes, and even drones have joined the toolkit. These tools make long-range observation easier, especially in vast open spaces where movement is hard to detect. Still, none of these gadgets replace the skill of reading wind, animal behavior, and ice structure. They only enhance what the most skilled hunters already know. A novice might walk right past a herd without noticing, while a seasoned hunter could spot a faint trail on the snow and know exactly where to go next. This isn't about luck, it's the result of years, sometimes decades, of deep learning. A trained eye can scan the ice and instantly recognize telltale signs of walrus activity. Ridges where they've hauled themselves up, cracks that match their breathing holes, or nearby feeding grounds rich in clams. But even the best instincts must now adapt. As Arctic temperatures rise and ice patterns change, so do the habits of walrus. Some polynyas are forming in new places, while older gathering points become less predictable. This makes ancestral knowledge even more valuable. Hunters must now combine their heritage with adaptability to navigate the shifting landscape. Finding a walrus is not about checking off steps on a list. It's a dance with the natural world, an ever-evolving rhythm between sea, land, sky, and animal. Knowledge isn't static in the Arctic. It's alive, growing with every hunt, with every observation, and every adaptation. Hunters are constantly adding to the wisdom passed down to them. A new breathing hole discovered in an unexpected place, a change in migration timing, or even a new call heard under different wind conditions. All these details get stored, remembered, and eventually passed on. Once a herd is located, the approach begins. A delicate operation requiring stealth and strategy. Despite their large size, walruses are alert and surprisingly sensitive to movement. Hunters must become nearly invisible. The first rule: never approach in a straight line. Walruses may have weak eyesight, but they're quick to notice direct movement. Hunters move in a zigzag pattern, using snowdrifts, ice mounds, and natural features as cover. Each step is calculated. The goal is to get close enough for a clean, respectful hunt, without alarming the herd. In these final moments, all the patience, skill, and wisdom come together. One misstep, one loud noise, and the walruses may dive into the sea, disappearing beneath the ice, possibly for days. For the Arctic hunter, success is not just about strength or speed. It's about understanding the land, listening to the wind, and moving with purpose through silence. In the world of walrus hunting, precision is everything. One misplaced footstep, one crunch of unstable ice, and hours of calculated movement can unravel faster than an ice cube dropped in hot coffee. To avoid detection, many traditional hunters rely on time-tested stealth methods, approaching not over ice, but from the sea. Their vessels of choice? Handcrafted kayaks made from seal skin stretched tightly over wooden frames. These ultra-quiet boats cut through the water with barely a ripple. One elder even joked that a yawning seal makes more noise. Kayaking toward a 4,000-pound creature in open water takes not only skill, but bravery. With only animal hide and wood between you and the frigid sea, there's little room for error. Wind direction during the approach can make or break the hunt. Hunters use small pouches filled with powdered snow, tossing bits into the air to detect the slightest shift in airflow. One gust in the wrong direction, and the entire operation could be compromised. Closing in on a herd is more like a slow-motion dance than a chase. Each hunter on the team plays a specific role, developed through tradition and practiced in silence. Some intentionally distract the herd with faint sounds, while others use the diversion to slide into ideal positions. Communication is done entirely through hand signals, unchanged for generations. Even the snow can't be trusted. At certain temperatures, it squeaks loudly beneath boots, giving away your location. Hunters adapt their walking patterns, gently rocking heel to toe, distributing weight in a rolling motion much like a stalking animal. Except this animal is wrapped in layers of thermal gear and walking across brittle ice. Reading walrus body language is an art of its own. These animals are expressive, but their signals are subtle. A raised head might mean curiosity. A slight repositioning could hint at discomfort. Experienced hunters know how to interpret these behaviors with the same nuance one might read facial expressions. Positioning between hunters is not random. On stable, thick ice, they'll spread out to maintain silence and line of sight. On thinner or shifting ice, they stay closer, enough for mutual support while keeping movement discreet. Interestingly, the typical spacing matches the length of 2 adult walruses, about 24 feet, creating just enough distance to minimize detection without sacrificing safety. Hunting conditions change with the seasons, and so must the tactics. In the darker winter months, visibility becomes a cloak for stealth, but sound becomes more noticeable. Ice creaks and snow crunches echo in the stillness. During brighter months, shadows become a concern. Hunters often time their movements to match early morning or late evening, when the long shadows cast by low sun angles help them blend into the terrain. While some now use modern scent-blocking fabrics or noise-absorbing clothing, many still favor traditional methods. Seal oil, for instance, is rubbed onto garments to mask human odor. It's a practice rooted in results, even if one hunter quipped, "After a few days of that, the walruses smell better than we do." Approaching a walrus herd isn't just about what you can see. It's about how the ground beneath you feels. Crossing sections of broken or unstable ice is one of the riskiest parts of the hunt. Each step requires absolute focus. Sometimes, hunters must drop to their bellies, crawling slowly to distribute weight evenly and avoid triggering a collapse. These zones are nerve-wracking. There's no tool that can replace the instincts honed over decades. A good hunter knows what cracking ice sounds like under pressure, how it shifts, and when to move or retreat. Mistakes in these areas aren't just inconvenient, they can endanger lives. Veterans of the hunt call this delicate crawl the Arctic Shuffle. It's not flashy, and it won't win any awards for style, but it's a lifesaver on thin ice. Every inch gained near a walrus herd is hard-earned. What makes this final stage even more challenging is the social structure of the walruses themselves. These animals often post sentries, typically older females with sharper senses, who remain alert while the rest of the herd rests. Through years of watching and learning, hunters have figured out how to identify these sentinels and plan routes that avoid their line of sight. As one elder wryly noted, teenagers make terrible guards. They're too busy admiring their new tusks. Approaching a herd can take hours. At close range, progress slows to mere inches. Movement is timed with natural sounds, a gust of wind, a distant crack, the shifting of the herd itself. Even then, nothing is guaranteed. A single wrong move and the entire group might vanish into the sea. That's when the true test begins, not just of skill, but of resolve. Striking a walrus might seem as simple as launching a harpoon and hoping it hits the mark, but in reality, it's anything but. Imagine trying to parallel park a car blindfolded in a windstorm. That's the level of precision and timing required. The exact target lies just behind the massive shoulder blade, in an area roughly the size of a dinner plate. Miss forward, and the dense blubber deflects the harpoon. Aim too far back, and the strike loses its effectiveness entirely. The physical challenge is real. Walrus skin can be as thick as 4 inches, with an additional 6 inches of blubber layered beneath. That's 10 inches of resistance before the harpoon reaches vital areas. Think of it as trying to push a spear through a stack of 10 leather jackets, all while your target weighs 4,000 pounds and could dive into frigid water in the blink of an eye. It's a test of strength, strategy, and perfect placement. The throw itself demands both explosive power and pinpoint control. It's not just brute force, it's a practice motion that's been shaped by centuries of Arctic hunting tradition. The harpoon must strike deep, straight, and true. One elder described the technique as throwing lightning. Quick, powerful, and exact. But in the Arctic, even throwing becomes harder. Temperatures can freeze fingers into stiff, unresponsive claws. Hunters quietly perform subtle movements during the approach, barely noticeable stretches and wrist rolls to keep their muscles from stiffening. As one seasoned hunter put it, you've got to be ready to throw a harpoon when you can't feel your fingers, and that's most of the time. Timing the strike is just as critical as the aim. Walruses surface to breathe every 5 to 7 minutes, usually staying above water for about 2 minutes before submerging again. Hunters watch and wait for this brief window, launching the harpoon when the animal is calmest, usually mid-breath. A unique challenge lies in their behavior. When alarmed, walruses hold their breath, disrupting their usual pattern. It's a reliable indicator that something has spooked them. Hunters learn to track these breathing shifts, using them as silent alarms. And then there's the wind. A gust of 20 miles per hour can push a harpoon several inches off course across a 20-foot throw. But seasoned hunters don't need instruments to calculate adjustments. They instinctively compensate based on feel, adjusting aim with subtlety honed through years of experience. The harpoon line itself is a whole different level of complexity. It must unravel smoothly as the harpoon flies. Any snag could ruin the shot or put the hunter at risk. To prevent this, the line is coiled in a special pattern, designed to deploy cleanly even when tossed in icy winds. Handling the line is a skill passed down through generations. Some hunters develop such a refined sense of touch and hearing that they can sense snags before they happen, just by how the line sounds as it plays out. These rare individuals have earned nicknames like the line whisperers. Team coordination during the strike is like a silent orchestra. Everyone has a role: the lead thrower, the line manager, and the support crew, each moving in exact rhythm. One misstep, 1 second of confusion, and all the preparation can dissolve into a cloud of snow and lost opportunity. While modern materials have helped sharpen harpoon tips and strengthen lines, the essence of the strike remains unchanged. Steel heads might cut cleaner than traditional bone, but the throw still demands human precision, timing, and judgment. Hunters joke that the best feature of new harpoons is that they don't need sharpening as often. a modest gain when facing off against an animal the size of a mid-size SUV. Perhaps the most impressive part of this entire process is the composure hunters maintain during the strike. With adrenaline surging, they must control their breathing, steady their arms, and deliver a clean throw. It's like trying to thread a needle in a moving car, except the needle is a harpoon, and the car is a shifting Arctic ice sheet. Success can come down to milliseconds. The difference between a direct strike and a failed attempt might be the width of a walrus whisker. And in that frozen moment, everything, experience, heritage, instinct, comes together. Walrus whiskers, technically called vibrissae, aren't just for show. These thick, bristly hairs are incredibly sensitive, capable of detecting the slightest movements in surrounding water. So when making that final strike, a hunter must move with near-perfect fluidity to avoid transmitting vibrations through the ice that could alert the animal. But the real challenge begins once the harpoon hits its mark. Striking a creature that lounges on frozen boulders as if they were feather beds is one thing. Holding on to it after that, a whole different beast. The moment of impact unleashes a raw surge of power. A male walrus can generate over 2,000 pounds of pulling force, enough to drag a compact car across a sheet of ice. In those first seconds, it's not uncommon to see hunting crews skid across the surface like kids on a carnival ride, only this ride is powered by a furious 4,000-pound sea mammal. This stage is about more than strength. It's about technique. Too much tension can snap the line, while too little lets the walrus gain ground. Balance is everything. The lead line handler takes a position that would make any tug-of-war athlete proud. Feet wide, knees bent, body leaning back at an angle that braces against the powerful tugs. While they hold firm, others quickly drive ice anchors into the surface and lash the line to multiple points, forming a resistance system strong enough to withstand a walrus's might. A typical struggle lasts anywhere from 20 to 45 minutes. During that time, the line may absorb over 100 powerful surges. The work is so grueling that hunters rotate roles to avoid exhaustion. One elder quipped that he burned more calories in one walrus battle than his grandson did in a week at his desk job, though he admitted the kids' coffee runs might count for some light cardio. The walrus's behavior follows a consistent pattern. First comes the power dive, a sudden, thunderous plunge that has snapped more than a few poorly made lines. Then comes the submarine phase, where the walrus swims deep and forcefully, testing every knot and anchor. As the line slices through the water, it creates a high-pitched hum that hunters call the walrus whistle, a sound equal parts eerie and exhilarating. Communication during this stage must be crystal clear. Despite layers of winter gear and thick mittens, hunters use a mix of traditional hand signals and verbal cues that have changed little over generations. More slack, brace left, and switch out are barked across the ice with urgency and precision. As one hunter joked, it's the only time you'll hear coordinated shouting that rivals a family Thanksgiving debate. From a physics standpoint, the stress on the line can exceed 3,000 pounds during peak moments. Hunters actually use the walrus's strength against itself, allowing it to burn energy as it fights. Ice anchoring systems are built to endure these punishing forces. Specialized hooks and ice screws are arranged in triangular patterns to distribute the tension. Some crews use a star pattern of 5 or more anchor points to create near unbreakable support. It's a method fine-tuned through decades of practice and bitter experience. Not all walruses fight the same way. Younger bulls tend to thrash wildly, using explosive energy in every pull. Older, heavier ones often rely on slow, sustained resistance, grinding away like heavyweight wrestlers. Veteran hunters can often guess a walrus's age and size just from the feel of the pull on the line. Some fight like boxers, one hunter said, some like sumo wrestlers, and a few just show off because they can. All of this unfolds in conditions that challenge even the toughest gear. Wind chills regularly drop below -40 degrees Fahrenheit, freezing exposed skin within minutes. Hunters must maintain grip, footing, and teamwork across a frozen surface as slick as polished tile. One traditional trick involves spreading seal blood on boot soles for extra grip. It works, but it leaves your boots smelling like a fish market for days. Float bags become invaluable during extended struggles. Tied to the secondary line, they create drag in the water, wearing the walrus down and helping track its location. Some hunters have switched to inflatable buoys, but many stick with traditional sealskin floats. Why? They're tougher in extreme cold and don't deflate if punctured by ice. According to many hunters, they also move right in the water, offering just enough give and pull to assist without hindering the fight. It's one more example of how traditional tools still hold their ground, even alongside modern materials. In recent years, one smart innovation has been the addition of quick-release mechanisms built into the hunting setup. These are designed for those heart-pounding moments when something goes wrong, when ice breaks, lines tangle, or the walrus suddenly dives with incredible force. With a quick pull, hunters can disconnect instantly from the system while still keeping the main line secured. Think of it as an Arctic version of an ejector seat, rarely needed, but essential when the situation turns dangerous. Traditionally, Inuit hunters had a similar system long before synthetic hardware entered the scene. They tied a special knot designed to release under tension with a single tug. It's a reminder that many modern innovations are simply refined versions of what already worked. Even with the best preparation, around 30% of walruses struck during a hunt still manage to escape. These losses are almost never due to the animal's strength alone. More often, it's a case of a frayed rope, a loose knot, or team miscommunication. That's why hunters obsessively inspect and maintain their gear, even in the off-season. Every carabiner, rope, knot, and blade is tested repeatedly. After all, no one wants to be remembered as the team that let the big one get away. Once the walrus begins to show signs of fatigue, hunters waste no time. They immediately shift into the next phase, hauling. And make no mistake, this is one of the most physically punishing parts of the hunt. Imagine trying to pull two mid-sized cars across a frozen parking lot with no traction and no wheels. That's the scale of effort required. The first key decision is choosing a landing site. Not every stretch of ice can handle a 4,000-pound animal. Hunters search for what they call a landing shelf. A flat, stable piece of ice strong enough to bear the weight but low enough to make hauling feasible. Some of these hauling zones are so reliable they've earned names passed down through generations, the same way families pass down favorite recipes or storytelling spots. To pull a full-grown walrus onto the ice, it often takes a team of 8 hunters working in tight coordination. The total force needed can exceed 5,000 pounds, roughly equal to lifting a fully loaded pickup truck. Instead of brute strength alone, hunters rely on rope and pulley systems, built from both traditional and modern materials. And while today's engineering students might analyze pulley angles and force vectors, Arctic communities have been mastering these concepts for centuries. As one hunter joked, "We figured out leverage before anyone needed a protractor." The setup looks almost choreographed. The strongest pullers take positions at the front. Behind them, others control the guide ropes to keep the walrus from veering off path. On command, the entire team moves in perfect unison, pulling with a rhythm that echoes across the ice. Shouted cues coordinate timing, making the entire scene feel like a dance powered by muscle and tradition. The kamu, a traditional sled, is central to the hauling system. Built for strength, these sleds don't use nails or screws. Instead, they're held together by rope lashings, which flex with the ice and absorb shock. The flexibility prevents cracking and gives them surprising longevity. Some hunters claim their sleds could survive anything, including what one jokingly called the nuclear winter special. Interestingly, the friction between walrus and ice isn't always a bad thing. At specific temperatures, usually just below freezing, a microscopically thin layer of meltwater forms beneath the animal. This natural lubrication reduces resistance and makes the hauling slightly easier. Hunters know to time their effort with these conditions. When everything aligns just right, cold enough to be firm, but warm enough for that slick surface, it's like nature hands them a temporary advantage. Still, hauling a 2-ton animal with tusks across shifting terrain is far from easy. Those tusks, especially on older males, can grow over 3 feet long and pose unique challenges during hauling. They often catch on the ice or get wedged between cracks. To prevent damage or delays, one member of the team is assigned specifically to manage the tusks. Using specially designed hooks, they guide and lift the ivory as the walrus is pulled forward. This role earned the nickname Tusk Whisperer, though most would argue it involves more strength and coordination than gentle coaxing. Temperature plays a major role in the final stages of the haul. The ideal range sits between 25 degrees Fahrenheit and 5 degrees Fahrenheit. Any warmer, and the ice softens under pressure, becoming a hazard. Any colder, and ropes, lines, and gear become so stiff they're hard to work with. One hunter recalled a day when it was so cold that the lines stood straight up after coiling. Like frozen spaghetti, he laughed. Except if one of those strands snaps, you're out a week's pay. And so, every pull, every step, every command matters. In this moment, tradition, teamwork, and timing must come together, because what began as a hunt now becomes a rescue mission, retrieving a prize from the frozen edge of the sea. In today's Arctic, modern innovation is carefully woven into the fabric of traditional hunting. While some teams have begun using synthetic ropes that are stronger than steel by weight, these advancements don't replace ancestral wisdom, they enhance it. The importance of a properly tied knot remains as critical as ever. In -40 degrees Fahrenheit temperatures, a single mistake in rope management can lead to disaster. Whether it's a slip in the knot or a line that wasn't coiled correctly, losing hold of a 4,000-pound walrus because of gear failure is a mistake hunters work tirelessly to avoid. What's most impressive isn't the materials, but the mindset. Hunters adapt every technique depending on the ice beneath their boots. Thick, solid ice allows for direct hauling with fewer anchors. Thin or shifting ice, however, requires creative strategies, such as spreading the hauling force across wider areas using multiple lines and pulleys. To help coordinate these efforts, teams have developed a specialized vocabulary, calls and commands specific to the type of ice they're working on. It's a system so complex and refined that a linguist could spend years studying it and still miss half the meaning. Time is a relentless opponent in the Arctic. The moment a walrus is landed on the ice, the clock starts ticking. The meat must be processed before it freezes solid, because once it does, cutting becomes an exhausting, blade-dulling ordeal. Hunters operate in timed shifts, usually rotating every 2 minutes to prevent muscle fatigue and frostbite. Some modern attempts to ease the workload, like battery-powered winches, have met mixed results. These machines may look efficient on paper, but they're heavy, prone to failure in extreme cold, and almost impossible to haul across unstable ice. One elder summed it up with a chuckle. "Machines break, but my nephew just keeps getting stronger." Cold weather battery life is another issue. In temperatures that drop below -30 degrees Fahrenheit, even the best lithium batteries can fail within minutes. Traditional techniques, refined over generations, still outperform their mechanical counterparts when it comes to reliability and endurance. Once the walrus is secured on the ice, the next challenge begins: processing. Compared to this, butchering a steer feels like prepping a small roast. A mature walrus is a living fortress of flesh and bone, demanding not just strength but anatomical precision. Hunters liken it to solving a 2-ton puzzle. Each piece must be removed in the correct order and designated for its proper purpose. The process begins with removing the outer hide, a durable skin that averages 1 inch thick and can weigh as much as 500 pounds. Specialized tools, including the traditional ulu, a curved, razor-sharp knife, are used to slice through this tough layer with surprising efficiency. Many joke that walrus hide could stop a bullet or serve as tank armor. Whether that's true or not, it's safe to say it's not coming off without effort. Once the skin is removed, the real work begins. Hunters have passed down specific cutting patterns designed to optimize both meat preservation and safety. The way a cut is made can determine whether the meat is tender or tough, usable or spoiled. A single adult walrus can yield up to 1,500 pounds of meat and edible organs, enough to feed multiple families for months. The meat is dark red, almost maroon, and richer in protein than beef. The liver, in particular, is packed with vitamin C, an essential nutrient in a region where fresh citrus is a fantasy. Long before nutritionists arrived with charts and studies, Inuit hunters already understood that walrus liver was a critical part of surviving long, fruitless winters. Once harvested, the meat and other parts are distributed according to long-established traditions. The division is based on the roles played during the hunt, community needs, and family responsibilities. Every organ, muscle, and bone has a purpose. Nothing is discarded. One elder said it best: "It's not just meat, it's memory, respect, and survival." Coordinating the distribution is like managing a high-stakes supply chain, except it's being done with hand signals and instinct instead of spreadsheets. The thick layer of blubber that surrounds the walrus's body brings its own set of challenges. It can reach depths of up to 6 inches and must be separated with care. If cut too shallow, valuable fat is wasted. Too deep, and meat is damaged. Skilled hunters learn how to remove the blubber in large, intact sheets, a task that takes years to master. This fat is then rendered into oil, which serves numerous purposes: as lamp fuel, a food source, and even as waterproofing for boots and clothing. Many hunters still swear that nothing keeps their gear dry like a coat of walrus oil, though they admit it's not a smell that earns compliments. Meanwhile, the meat must be kept from freezing solid, yet not allowed to warm too much, finding the sweet spot in an environment where the entire world is basically a freezer. Hunters rotate jobs frequently. Some cut, others prep storage containers, and still others coordinate the transport back to camp. The process resembles a cooking show, but one where the set is ice and the fridge is the atmosphere itself. Tusks are handled with the same level of care and respect as the rest of the walrus. These ivory giants can grow over 3 feet long and are removed with precision tools. Once cleaned, they're either set aside for ceremonial use or transformed into artwork and tools. Few people know that walrus tusks grow rings, just like trees. By counting these growth rings, hunters can estimate the animal's age with surprising accuracy. Even the bones, especially those from the head and shoulder, don't go to waste. Their dense structure makes them perfect for carving into tools like sled runners, fishing implements, or even knife handles. In some communities, special artisans take on this task, turning raw bone into items that are both functional and beautiful. From hide to tusk, nothing is wasted. The shoulder blades alone are broad and strong enough to serve as makeshift snow shovels, leading to a long-standing Arctic joke that walruses help with winter cleanup even after they're gone. But practicality runs far deeper than humor. Nearly every internal organ has a specific role in traditional life. The stomach, once thoroughly cleaned and stretched, becomes the drumhead for ceremonial instruments. The deep, reverberating sound it produces is perfect for gatherings, echoing through frozen air during celebrations or rituals. The intestines, prepared and processed by skilled hands, are transformed into lightweight, waterproof material used for outer garments. These natural membranes remain flexible in the cold and outperform many synthetic fabrics, particularly when keeping moisture out during hunts. The heart, rich in iron and other nutrients, is usually consumed on the spot. Shared between hunters while the animal is being processed, it's a moment of communal bonding. One younger hunter once, when it comes to storage, modern technology complements age-old methods rather than replacing them. While some families now use freezers powered by generators or solar panels, many communities still rely on permafrost storage, essentially deep cellars dug into the earth that stay perfectly cold all year without electricity. It's nature's version of a walk-in freezer, reliable and silent. Traditional preservation methods remain central to community life. One such practice, known as e-gun, involves fermenting specific cuts of meat under tightly controlled conditions. The process may sound strange to outsiders, but it results in a deeply flavorful and nutrient-rich food that can last through the harshest winter months. The method is so refined that some elders can tell how successful the fermentation will be just by the way the meat feels, or even the sound it makes when sliced. These techniques are not simply functional, they're cultural cornerstones, passed down like prized family heirlooms. Processing a walrus isn't just a physical task, it's a social one. The moment the animal is on the ice, the entire community engages in the process. Children help with basic cleaning, eager to contribute. Adults take on the heavy lifting. Elders oversee the entire process, ensuring tradition is honored and no detail is overlooked. In this setting, the ice becomes a classroom. Grandparents teach grandchildren to identify organs by touch. Parents show teenagers the proper way to slice blubber. Even the rhythm of cutting becomes part of the lesson. One hunter fondly recalled learning alongside his grandfather, who could tell by feel alone whether a cut was in the right spot. These sessions are also filled with stories, tales of hunts from years past, memories of weather that turned in an instant, and recollections of legendary walrus encounters are shared with pride. It's more than education, it's the transmission of identity. What outsiders often fail to grasp is how strategic walrus processing really is. It's not a matter of convenience, it's carefully timed. Hunters don't start cutting the moment they reach camp. Instead, they assess moon phases for lighting, gauge wind speeds for drying conditions, and even test the air for moisture. Some hunters claim they can smell approaching weather, a subtle shift in air scent that signals when to start or delay the process. When the time is right, snow walls are built around the processing area to block the wind. Shallow pits are dug in the snow to regulate meat temperature. These snow microclimates help keep the meat cool without freezing it solid. Hunters also select different snow types depending on the desired temperature. Powdered snow keeps things colder, while densely packed snow helps slow the freeze. One veteran even described the snow as a second set of hands, helping him maintain the right conditions without any equipment. Clouds too play a role. In these communities, weather prediction is not a hobby, it's a vital skill. Elders watch for specific cloud shapes, colors, and movements. Thin, layered clouds may mean good drying conditions. Puffy, fast-moving clouds might signal an incoming storm. Some communities even assign designated weather watchers, usually older hunters with a lifetime of experience, who advise when it's time to speed up or slow down processing. The locations where processing takes place are rarely random. Many are historic spots used by generations, chosen for their natural advantages. Some are sheltered from prevailing winds. Others catch the right amount of sun. These areas often have names in the Inuit language, names that capture the spirit of the place or commemorate key events. One such place roughly translates to, "Where grandfather's harpoon broke, but the feast was still good." The sounds of walrus processing are more than background noise. They're part of the language of tradition. A skilled butcher can tell by the swish of a knife through blubber if the blade is sharp enough. If the meat crunches instead of yielding, it may be freezing too fast. Even the sound of boots on snow carries meaning. A deeper crunch might suggest snow too warm for optimal preservation. Everything speaks if you know how to listen. As the final cuts are made and every part of the walrus is packed away, the tools are cleaned and stored, ready for the next hunt. Processing is not merely about carving meat. It's a finely tuned blend of timing, skill, and ancestral knowledge. Here, weather, moonlight, sound, and snow all contribute to a ritual that is at once deeply practical and profoundly cultural. In the Arctic, survival is never separated from wisdom, and every hunt, every harvest, echoes with the voices of those who came before.